Te reo irarangi ona tangata o Manawatu. MPR, proud to support local music. Manawatu People's Radio.
Kia ora hou, and thank you very much. And we're going to start off with an old song, a song that goes back to 2007. And I used to play in a band called Wild Geese, and one of the things that Wild Geese did, one of the guys in Wild Geese wrote a song about the Battle of Messines. And as a result of that, we got invited to go to Belgium and play at the 90th commemoration events of Messines. So we went there, 2007, and then I was quite moved by that. Then the next year I was invited to go back myself and play, and before I went back I actually wrote a song about Passchendaele, and I was actually going to write a song about La Barceville because my grandfather was shot at La Barceville, but no one's really ever heard of La Barceville, and I really struggled with that concept, but everyone's heard of Passchendaele now, and the song came to me quite quickly, and so I wrote the song, and I just want to share a couple of the lines out of it. I probably have prepared a bit too much. It's going to go on for hours. But when I wrote the song, I took it back to Belgium, and I thought that everyone would love it. But there was a couple of things that I learned as a songwriter about this song that you've got to be very, very careful sometimes with lyrics. So I'm just going to share one or two of those lyrics and the changes that I had to make when I took this and first started to showcase the song. So anyway, the first thing, the song starts off about talking about the bull ring at a Tapley. So for the New Zealanders, that was the biggest canvas tent city basically the world had ever seen, and that's where they got hardened up before they went to the Western Front. And the bull ring was where they were drilled, and they was called the bull ring because the people that were running the show were as mad as bulls, and they were quite violent sort of place. But anyway, that's the start of the song, and I based a lot of the inspiration from the song. I drew a lot of inspiration from John A. Lee's book Civilian into Soldier. So later on in the song you'll actually hear me talk about civilians into soldiers, because that's the difference between First World War compared to people going to war now. These people were just civilians, plucked off, taken away, trained up and then sent to war. Quite a different concept. One of the things that I do in the song is make a distinction about being from New Zealand, the song being a New Zealand song, because when I sing you'll hear that I've got a very strong Dannevirke accent, and that often comes through that a lot of people don't even know what I'm talking about, so it doesn't matter about misinterpreting lyrics, it's just the accent's quite strong for them. There's a mention in here about faced up to Bellevue Spur. That's where the New Zealanders were on October the 12th, 1917, facing up. And when you go to Passchendaele, it's not actually a hill, a spur, it's really just a slight rise. It's not really a big ridge, but if someone's shooting at you from a concrete pillbox and you've got a whole lot of barbed wire, it's an insurmountable goal. And that's what the New Zealanders found, because when they went into that battle in October 1917, there'd been a lot of rain. And in the song you hear about the lyrics saying that the barrage failed. Well, the barrage was all the howitzer guns, and as the howitzers fired, they sunk further into the ground, and as a consequence, the barrage range that they'd projected was completely up the chute. So instead of actually firing and knocking out the barbed wire that had been rolled up by the Germans, it didn't really do anything. In fact, really what it did was actually fall to really put the New Zealanders in disarray, so the barrage failed. One of the things I say in the song, because Passchendaele, from a New Zealand perspective, was the biggest disaster that ever happened militarily, because in 4 hours, 846 people were killed outright in 4 hours. And in the song I say 1,000 people were killed. Well, over the ensuing days, and actually weeks and months, there's well over 1,000 people were killed from this one stupid action that really didn't gain anything, gained 500 yards if that. And in fact, in the spring offensive of 1918, the Germans pushed right back, and all of that waste really was just counted. So anyway, one of the things I did though, and the Germans, they held the high ground when the fight was happening. After about 4 hours, they really did stop firing. And one of the lyrics that I wrote was, when the Germans called a ceasefire. Now, when I sang that in Belgium, that created a lot of angst from some of the Belgium military historians because they said it was not a ceasefire, it was a cessation of fire, which doesn't actually scan very well when you're trying to sing it. But so I had to change the lyric to say when both sides held their fire. And these are the sort of things, as a songwriter that you don't often think about, but it's actually really important to someone, the difference between a ceasefire and a cessation of fire. And similarly, right at the end, I say, lest we forget the sacrifice of every life. Originally, I had written the price of freedom set, and I played this song to a distant cousin of mine who was actually a retired colonel from the army, and he's quite a straight-upping guy, and he said, "What a bloody stupid lyric that is." There was no price of freedom set. 21 years later, there was World War II, which is another very, very good point. So I changed that lyric to their place in history set. And so anyway, I just wanted to share those sort of processes of how songwriting can evolve and how sometimes you think something's going to be very simple can turn out to be quite contentious with something you don't actually intend to do, to actually just to be something that you're trying to commemorate an historical event. So this is Passchendaele. And just one final thing for anyone who's interested in recording. Originally I sang this in B flat, but the only reason I did that was because I could use my Highland bagpipes to do a lead break with the Highland pipes. It's actually much better in C, so there's no Highland bagpipes tonight. We'll just use harmonica. Sorry. From the bull ring at the top play, thousands of men were drilled to the edge of what was Passchendaele, where 1,000 men were killed. Civilians into soldiers, fighting for liberty, from New Zealand to the Western Front, for their king and country. The battle line was set, faced up to Bellevue Spur. The Germans held the high ground, their position was secure. Most saw it as a duty to capture the pillbox, but the barrage failed and hot fire hailed lambs before the fox. Uncut wire, machine gun fire, they were ordered to advance. Stuck in mud, they shed their blood. They never stood a chance. Both sides held their fire, the fallen men were cleared. 500 yards of blood-stained mud was a gain for all the dead. So now remember Passchendaele, lest we forget the sacrifice of every life, their place in history set. Uncut wire, machine gun fire, they were ordered to advance. Stuck in mud, they shed their blood. They never stood a chance. They never stood a chance. Thanks very much. So, for something new, and I know there's a lot of people that might be listening to this on the radio, so Ceol Manawatu, just to give a bit of a background is really a collective of musicians. There's no fixed band, just as long as I'm on it. It's basically whoever best fits the bill, and Craig's obviously been on all the 3 albums, and they're available on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play. But also, the key thing that we're trying to do is, Fraser said originally, is play music that's from the Manawatu. Okay, there's some original material. Well, it's all original material. We don't do covers, although we're about to in 5 minutes. But we play original music, and the influences change. And on the CDs, there's a lot of songs there's songs going back to 1887, and songs, this one, from 2017. And it's a song that I wrote because, as you probably worked out by now, I'm not actually a guitarist. I can play 3 chords, so I used those 3 chords of D, G, and I do A7 because it's fine. It's easier than the A, just guitarists will know that. So I wrote this song, and originally when I wrote this song, I've always been a folk sort of musician, but I was starting to get into a lot more alt country, and I influenced by people like Gillian Welch and the Be Good Tanyas and the Wailing Jennies, bands like that I really like. That I love that style, so I've been getting more countrified with the songwriting that I'm doing. So I actually wanted to win New Zealand Country Song of the Year, and because there was no New Zealand Folk Song of the Year, there's a Folk Album of the Year. But so I wrote the song, and originally it was called Fourth Time Lucky, using my 3 chords of G, D, and A7. And I wrote it as a 3/4. And what I realised when I recorded it with Wild Geese actually was that it really was still a folk song. It wasn't a country. So I hooked up with some other musicians, a guy called Jerry Paul, who's a very talented guitarist, has played in a lot of top bands, and Phil Boniface, who's a double bass player, and said to them, guys, let's change this into 4/4. So we changed the song into 4/4. So we changed Fourth Time Lucky that was a 3/4 into Third Time Lucky, which is a 4/4. And the reason for changing it into a 4/4 is that's more of a country thing. So we get a bit more of a country vibe going on. And that's really all I have to say about it, except that it's amazing, again, talking about the process of songwriting. I wrote the song and then thought, I really should Google this. Yeah, and there's definitely songs called Fourth Time Lucky. There's lots of songs called Third Time Lucky. And the amazing thing is, there's one of the key lyrics in this is I finish it with me and you. And there's this guy, I forgot his name, Harold, I think, surname. And he wrote this song, it's almost exactly the same. And I swear I'd never ever heard it before, but his is called Me and You. And then One Direction did You and I. So this gets really just got to do your own thing. So we'll do our own thing, which is Third Time Lucky, which is on the last album, if you've got Spotify. It's draw an analogy between a relationship and playing poker, which used to happen at the Celtic Inn on a Monday night, which is where I got the inspiration. I never knew what I wanted when we first met. Never thought I would see you again, so no regret. Yeah, but fate played a hand, led you to my door, and I found an ace when you came back for more. You led with the heart, and now I am sure that third time lucky is the best that we can do. And third time lucky, me and you. last game, the best plans to try and keep calm. And if you can do that, well, you might find the third time's a charm. Now the cards have been dealt, you hold the hand that I sought. After all of these years, oh, who would have thought? This is one of life's lessons that could never be taught. And third time lucky is the best that we can do. Here and third time lucky, me and you. And third time lucky is the best that we can do. In third time lucky, me and you. Thanks very much. So for covers, so Craig and I have been playing for years now, and we used to do a two-piece. We played a three-piece, we played a four-piece, but we have often sung the song that's called Past the Point of Rescue, and it's a song that was written by a guy called Mick Hanley. And Mick Hanley, for anyone that knows Irish music, Mick Hanley's quite a famous guy, and he moved into Moving Hearts after Christy Moore left back in the day, and he started off as a folk musician, then got into Moving Hearts, which was more of a rock, folk, Celtic folk rock thing. Used to play in they were a big band, Moving Hearts. And then Mick Hanley went out on his own, and I think he started writing his own songs and so forth. Had a bit of difficulty, I think, in his life with different things. And anyway, years ago, probably about 10, 15 years ago, Neil McIntosh, who owned the Celtic Inn at that stage, said to me, "Oh, there's this guy called Mick Hanley touring New Zealand, wants to see if we can do a gig in Palmerston North. What do you reckon?" I said, "Oh, this would be amazing, honestly." And it's my first time I've ever tried to be an entrepreneur. And I said, "Oh, look, you can't go wrong. Just book him, whatever it costs." And it cost for $800 because I remember it well. And I said, "Oh, it'll be fine." And he said, "Oh, if you put a door charge?" And I said, "Oh, no, look, honestly, you'll be packed." And so Mick Hanley was booked to come and play at the Celtic, and I got there about 3 hours early with my friend, the late Greg Drohan, and we sat to get the best seats. And honestly, there's more people here tonight than were at that gig. And the funny thing is that Mick really nailed the gig. It was wonderful. And he was actually interviewed the next morning on Good Morning with Mary Lambie. That's how long ago it was. And she said, "Oh, where were you last night?" He said, "I did a gig in Palmerston North." And she said, "What was it like?" And he said, "Intimate." So anyway, I love Mick Hanley's songwriting. When I lived in Masterton, mates down there, we'd seriously, just about every Friday night we'd go home, and one of the guys had a record of Mick Hanley, and it was singing with Dolores Keane, a song called My Love Is in America. Check it out on Spotify. I checked it out today, it's there. And Mick's brilliant. So this song that he wrote called Past the Point of Rescue, for years I always thought he won a Grammy for it, but he didn't. I checked that today. But anyway, the person who probably made it the most famous was a guy called Hal Ketchum. He's not a big news in New Zealand, but he's big in the States, and he took this song to #1 in the States in country music, but also this was covered by Mary Black and the Dixie Chicks, and it's just a brilliant song. It's just a really, really good song, and that's all I've got to say about this. But before I close, I'd just like to thank the guys at Access Manawatu for getting this going. This is a brilliant idea, and thank it's great to hear the other two acts tonight as well. So, and thanks for everyone for coming out and supporting music in New Zealand Music Month.
And maybe I could just say something. I've always thought this song was called Past the Pint of Rescue. rather than past the point of rescue. And I just want to make reference to the amazing pint of raspberry cider, which we've had at the Halcyon, which is just fantastic. Bit of country.
Last night I dreamed you were back again, larger than life again, holding me tight again, placing those same kisses on my brow, sweeter than ever now. Lord, I remember how couldn't get enough of kissing. Do you know how much you're missing? No, you don't, but I do.
Days like a slow train just whistle by. Even the words I write, oh, refuse to fly. And all I can hear is your song haunting me. Can't get the melody out of your head, my sea. Distractions I've been using. Do you know how much you're losing? No, you don't, but I do. But I do, and I wonder if I'm past the point of rescue. Is no word from you at all the best that you can do?
Never meant to push or shove you. Do you know how much I love you? No, you don't, but I do. Swore that I'd never fall like this again. Fools like me never win. Came to my knees again. Can't get my life out of likelihood. Things might be just as good. Always believe they would. Gotta get your love and vitamin. Baby, do you think it might be? No, you don't, but I do. Yep,
I do, and I wonder if I'm past the point of rescue. Is no word from you at all the best that you can do?
never meant to push or shove you. Do you know how much I love you? No, you don't, but I do.
And I do,
And I wonder if I'm past the point of rescue.
there's no word from you at all
The best that you can do. Never meant to push or shove you. Do you know how much I love you? No, you don't, but I do. I know you don't, but I do. I know you don't, but I do. Thank you very much. Wanja.
Support this programme and others like it by giving a donation to NPR. More details at npr.nz.